the Beekmantown Central School District. Welcome to the 2020-2021 Beekmantown Central School District budget hearing, where we are bringing forward our adopted budget for the community to once again investigate and then to vote on. So everybody knows the voting ballots did go out today in the mail, and you shall be receiving them when the United States Post Office delivery system brings them to your home or your post office box. Turn those back around, and they need to be here by June 9th. So thank you for voting on the election. I'm going to move right to our presentation, and hopefully you see this. Okay, here is the here's the adopted budget, and obviously the first picture you see is our wonderful teachers working with our kids, or in the middle picture are some kids working on our face mask program. So the most important component of working at Beekmantown is trying to adhere to and implement our mission, and that is to make sure that our kids are receiving that high quality education and leaving Beekmantown as a quality contributor to society and self. And we always keep this in mind as we adopt new programs. How is this going to help somebody become a better reader? How is this going to help somebody become better at a job skill if they were going right into the workforce? And also maybe if those kids are going to college, what can we do to help those kids and everybody else in the middle or on the margins of those? So another question that usually people ask is, are you going to exceed the 2% tax cap? No, our current tax cap number this year is 2.76. It's a very complicated, I think, 11-step formula. We are not going above that tax cap number. So it is 2.76 that we're proposing to the school community. Our tax rate for taxpayers will remain $18 per thousand roughly, or less, but that's a little more complicated this year, and that's not due to our factors, and I'll go over that with you shortly. As you do see, here are the tax rates over on the left-hand side of this grid is the years, and then in the next column are the tax rates per thousand and the tax levy, and then the percent change. As you see, we've really strived over the years to have a tax levy change with a very manageable number. We did not, it was communicated to me that the years prior we were really swinging way up or way down, and it was really confusing and stressful to our taxpayers. So we've tried to have a smoothing effect on our tax increase. Please note that this rate is impacted by a lot of things, including special deals like pilot agreements or tax certs or whatever that may be happening that are outside of our control. And we've been a strong advocate for everybody, including big businesses, to pay their fair share. And that means that every homeowner would pay less as well. And that should really be the tax break, not special breaks for big corporations and then our tax rate increases because of it. Here's a district-wide comparison of the other school districts simply in our county, and you can see that Beekmantown Central School District is the largest school district in the county, and this does not include pre-K. We have the largest number of pre-K offerings in the county as well. So we're above 2,000 students at the Beekmantown Central School District. The free and reduced lunch numbers are really pretty stable around the county. There's not a huge change. Maybe Shazy has a lower one, but the rest of us are really kind of hovering around that 50% mark. And you see the tax rates vary widely, but we actually end up quite favorably at Beekmantown compared to some of the other tax rates. Our financial outlook right now is, I guess, the best way to say it is concerning. The major issue facing us is the New York State aid. And this year it's at a flat level right now, but we've been told that there's going to be a cut and we can expect the cut, and then that reduction or cut would need to be filled by the federal government. And if the federal government doesn't fill it, you can still expect that reduction. Unfortunately, they told us that this was going to happen in May 1st, on May 1st, then May 15th. So we're left to just really figure out when will that reduction come and how impactful will that be to us, since we don't have the number of the amount of the reduction. Favorable for us are our lower energy rates. That you see that maybe out in maybe in the community at the gas station, and you're saying, okay, rates seem to be going down. That is accurate for like our heating oil, but also you'll see around the school district that we engage in an energy performance contract where we're using far less energy than we did before. So that's very favorable. Our capital projects and our new facilities internally, which some people see the fields or see the learning theater, but you don't see all the other upgrades we made to our infrastructure, and that's serving us quite well as we move into subsequent years. Our grants are solid. Sometimes they're really great. I'll go through that with you. And then our Smart School Bond Act, we're one of the only districts to have a multi-year plan, maybe the only district to have a 14-year plan to take our money and spread it out over a lot of years to make sure that our kids had a 21st century learning environment. So next year and in subsequent years, there'll be we will be able to pay for Chromebooks out of this bond, infrastructure upgrades to the Wi-Fi, and security upgrades. So that was very smart planning by some of us here, including the board that adopted that plan. How does the 2020-2021 budget impact me is another fair question. And here is the odd tax rate that we're looking at this year. You're going to see Altona, Beekmantown, and Shazy with a much, much lower rate than before. And I realize that maybe assessments went up in some of those towns, maybe all those towns. It's out of our control. That happens with the assessor. So if your assessments may be up, but your tax rate is down, and then the town of Plattsburgh has a higher rate, and they should normally be equalized. So that's out of our control. But I think the county has maybe stated that Plattsburgh is at 90% of their assessed value, so they need to reassess. I am not sure, but we did look into this, and it is abnormal, but it is out of our control. But in any event, this is what we believe the tax rate should be based on the current information we have now. Once again, that is out of our control, but we are sharing the information with you. What are our budget priorities? They're very, very they're simple to us. We want to maintain an outstanding education system built on high expectations for our students. We want to make sure that we're producing a world-class learning environment with programming that is sustainable. And this includes maintaining college credit classes, implementing partnerships to enhance our offerings at each school. That could be with BHSN, College for Every Student, Clinton Community College, or the Workforce Development Board maybe, or the TDC. We want to make sure that our kids are ready for the world of work if they're leaving. We want to make sure they're ready for college if they're going there, military, and certainly we want all of our kids to be really engaged in a high-level academic system that includes a high level of reading. We also want to make sure that we're carefully reviewing all of our expenditures in this fiscal crisis to maximize our return both professionally and programmatically, which isn't easy. One of those areas that we'll go through with a fine-tooth comb every year are our grants, our federal grants, some of the grants we've applied for and received. They're really important to help us continue to build a high-level learning platform for our teachers to utilize and our principals to utilize to help enhance our students' education. As you take a look, we're at right now $1.6 million in grants, federal and state grants, and local grants too. And that's not including ELT, which we recently received word that it's probably in doubt this year. But surprisingly, even after the COVID crisis started, we received word that it is in the budget. So we're uncertain, but we'll, that could certainly benefit the school district in a lot of ways. Look at our state aid. The foundation aid is the money that really comes in to help drive our education system, our learning. And as I told you before, that number is flat. We have a community schools allocation in there of $100,000. You can see that some BOCES aid has come in. And but as you take a look, when you get down to the bottom line, our building aid is way down. And therefore, the aid coming in into us is significantly lower this year. The next few slides are a breakdown of our administration, programming, and capital. And the nice thing is that our money is really into the teaching component in our budget. As you'll see across the board, all areas are, not all areas, but most areas are lower than you would expect normally. I'll give you an example, just as the first line, the Board of Education. We usually budget $10,000 for some different programming, professional development, going to conferences and whatnot. That's down 36%, or just about $6,000. And you'll see that all the way down across the board in administration. As you continue to look, savings in certain areas are usually in the parentheses. It's significant reductions this year. Program is good. We're hoping to have less legal fees this year. We've had a number of claims. We've prevailed on those claims, but they've certainly taken a lot of money out of our system to defend some of those issues. And then just take a look. I'm not going to read each one, but you can see that there are significant reductions down across the board. But we certainly feel that with this proposed budget, we will be able to meet our goals that I previously stated. Interscholastic athletics, there is a reduction in interscholastic athletics. It doesn't show on this particular slide, but there'll be less materials and supplies and less assistant coaches. And of course, that's a big if this budget passes, and it's also a big if on if, like, the CDC and the Department of Health and everybody else allows interscholastic athletics to continue. So you should have everything right there in front of you. I'll leave it on the slide for one more moment. And then the capital is basically is our building. How are we being great stewards with our building? How do we maintain our building day to day? Everything from custodians to heating oil to and it's not just our buildings, like our buses, as you'll see on 9950, code 9950, our interfund transfer. Pretty big reduction there. We are looking to pay for the buses this year by voter approval to bond them. Our debt service is down significantly in the middle there. And you just see there's a big reduction, but the good news is our buildings are in really, really good shape, thanks to so many good decisions by our operations committee and just the folks that do the day-to-day work on our buildings, and then the respect that both our teachers and principals and our students have for our buildings is super important. And I'm going to move now to our multi-year forecast, and hopefully you'll be able to see this with me. I'm not sure if you can see that right now, if you've seen a change. Give me one moment. And hopefully you see our forecast here for March 10th forecast. And I'm going to go to a previous forecast. We've had a number of these forecasts. This one's the forecast that we've had for the majority of our board meetings and when we've talked about our budgets, we've been in this deficit situation between 1.7 million and 2.4 million based on different state aid scenarios. And we're actually anticipating and budgeting for this number to be far greater, because we're anticipating this number under state aid up at the top, that 19 million, to go down, to have a reduction there, which would then make our number in the red bigger. So we're anticipating that, and we're forecasting. Unfortunately, we're forecasting for that. So this number in the red is, if we left everything the way it is, we would be 2.4 million in debt this year. It's not the way we want to run a budget. And then obviously you see how that compounds. And that's really important, is you got to make sure that you understand the compounding effect when you start sliding yourself into a deficit situation. It really gets on top of you quite fast. That's why you need to present a balanced budget. And that's what we've done to the Board of Education, is we've taken that 2.7 million, even projecting a $4 million reduction or more coming in the coming months, and we've zeroed that out. So we've done that in a lot of different ways. We've increased over the years. This particular year, our fund balance is healthy right now, but we're going to look to spend that down over the coming years, because we've been told that this is a 5 to 10 year issue for the state to wrestle with, to get back on track, which is, certainly concerning. But you got to listen to that, and you got to build programming appropriately. And then you see other areas where we have reductions. If you see the parentheses, that's a reduction. So there's significant reductions in our budget, and it does zero us out to having a balanced budget. And then in subsequent years, our numbers are in the red, and we'll deal with those. We'll deal with those when we're there. But they've certainly gone down significantly, and we could have more state aid. We also built these budgets on assumptions, and those assumptions, we'll know more when we get to those years. So that's the budget that we've put forward. These are more of the decreases that we saw in the previous slides, but they're kind of totaled up to give kind of an executive view or a snapshot forecast to everybody. I'm going to stop, and I'm going to go back to my presentation, or our presentation, and hopefully you'll see this presentation again. As it loads. All right, so I'm going to move through the slides we already looked at, and here you have some of our great teachers working with our awesome students. I think that's Mr. Crescetti up here working with his fourth graders at BES. Probably, if I had to guess, that's a BAS learning environment. And then this is Mrs. Bishop working in probably Project Lead the Way at Cumberland Head. Mrs. Hamilton maybe handling some type of ELA instruction in 7th grade at the middle school. And Mr. Moss pointing down, definitely, and working with maybe his forensics group. That's an interesting class where our kids that want college credit for this class can obtain that through Syracuse University. And they actually, many of them qualify for state aid, which is really nice. A lot of people always want to know, where does our money come from? And it's generally a 50-50 split. When you throw in grants, Medicaid, reimbursements, maybe pre-K revenues, the blue piece of the pie expands. Hopefully it keeps expanding. And we receive about 6% from outside. I'm going to say outside sources. But if you look, state aid and our local share are really pretty close to being 50-50. And that's really where our money comes from, our local taxpayers and the state education department. That's different from district to district. Here's some more of our kids. I've got a slime expert up here in the top right-hand corner, the Rainbow Project, and I think that's Mrs. Bell, maybe teaching digitally with our happy guy right here, and then two other happy elementary students. And I'm not sure what project they're working on, what type of learning they're working on there. Exciting. So our capital outlay project is also in our budget again this year. And this particular year, we're going to be replacing our bleachers at the middle school, as they are very, very dangerous. They're not pushing in or pulling out appropriately. I think they're the original bleachers from that gym, and it is time to move those bleachers out and put some safer bleachers in. And we'll also work probably outside of the capital outlay project. We did talk previously about a divider, a better divider, a way to keep the doors locked between the high school and the elementary school, or building new doors. By code, we've been told we can't put new doors into the walkway, but we do have a plan to help maintain a more safe environment, and that may be something we work on a capital outlay in the future, or we may use existing capital funds on that project. Our busing proposition is really, really important, and we have looking at purchasing 4 buses and maybe selling back or trading 4 buses. It could actually be 3, because we might be taking a grant of $2,500 and converting a bus to distribute food to the community. We don't receive very much when we sell these buses back, a very low rate of return for school buses. There's not a big market for school buses. But we're looking for purchasing 4, and we receive 75% of that money back in aid. And the total amount that we're going out to the public with is $472,000. And again, 0.1% of that money would come back in state aid. And then on top of that, we would sell back either 3 or 4, and to further offset, and that money would be moved into fund balance. Here's a great picture of a project we did to help protect our first responders at the hospital and other areas. And I'm actually delivering some of these masks tonight on my way home and to a doctor's office. So these are the shields, not masks, excuse me. And we had partners in this. Our students actually worked, and they were paid through a grant, $15 an hour, which is a really nice rate. And they think they received some kinds of credits as well. Mr. Horn here down in the lower right-hand corner, you can see the 3D printers behind him, which made these visors, and he kind of led the project. And Adams Glass was a big help for us in securing the shield part, and we used all of our infrastructure to build these. And we had aides come in and students come in and volunteer. We kept them socially distanced, but it was very important for us to make sure that the proper PPE was out there, and if we had the ability to help the community, we were going to do that in a safe way. So we had some questions we put out to the community, and one of the questions was, hey, it looks like you may be reducing psychological services in a time when mental health is so important. And that's is very unfortunate time we're in, where across the board we do need to make reductions in staff. We're currently looking at 20 staff members who will unfortunately be reduced in force, and then maybe a total of 40 positions that would be altered, or maybe eliminated through attrition or other areas. So that's hard to hear, and it's hard to think that all the resources we have now are not going to be here next year. But I would ensure everybody that teaching and learning here at Beekmantown is our highest priority, and doing that in a safe, secure manner is exactly what we aim for every single day. But then providing the supports for our kids so that they are emotionally well, are very important for us. If you take a look at the amount we spend in the county, we did this in previous board meetings, for counseling services and psychological services, it's more than any other district in the county, and significantly more than the state average. But it's also important to know that we, in addition to that, we bring in VHSN counselors and for each specific school. We work with the Clayton County Personnel Department to bring in other folks as well. So we have a lot of supports for our kids, and those will remain. Another question that was brought to me was our SRO, and our SRO has been a wonderful addition to the Beekmantown Central School District. And when we adopted a part-time SRO. We were one of the first districts in the county to do that. And then we liked it so much, so we were the first district in the county recently to adopt a full-time SRO. And it's been a wonderful partnership with the Clinton County Sheriff's Department. And they were the only game in town for a long time. And we were fine with the SRO. However, with the massive budget cuts that $4 million, whatever that number ends up being, we can no longer afford that particular model. We've asked the county to consider moving to a model like the city of Plattsburgh is using, or some of our neighboring counties have used. Or bottom line is, it's hard when we know that the SRO's compensation level is, say, $20,000 or $30,000, but we might be being charged $100,000, and we're in this budget crisis. So we're willing to work with any partners we can to keep our place secure, and we'll keep investigating that. But we can't pay we can't pay rates that are unsustainable, when we're in this budget shortfall. So we'll continue to investigate and look at new ways to bring in safety and security measures to our school community. And those are the only two questions that I had before me. And with that, I just want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Make sure that you do go out, or I guess not go out, make sure that you do look for the ballot in your mailbox. You turn it around and you cast your votes, and you send it back in your self-addressed stamped envelope to us. And every ballot we receive by 5 o'clock on June 9th will be counted, and we will let the community know probably within 36 hours how the vote turned out, because we're gonna have to count them by hand. It's much more difficult this year. So again, thank you for everybody's time, their consideration. Be safe, and thank you for everybody's continuing support for our students and our community during this difficult time, but it certainly looks like things are getting better. So thank you, and have a good evening.